Okay, welcome back to our little private party here. No players allowed. This is Secrets of Role Mangging for my Call of Cthulhu campaign. Oh, boy. What a session that was, right? I know you were sitting through that regular role manging and you're like, oh man, I can't wait for him to get into all this shit. What happened? Oh, God. I know. I love it too. Alright. Okay, so if you remember the last Secrets of Role Mangging, I didn't really go into much detail about what I thought would happen at Fat Mabel's because I had no idea what would happen at Fat Mabel's. You can't ever really assume. And so I focus more on the broader picture of the hopeful outcome of what would happen at Fat Mabel's, which for me was trying to get them into a situation with Makunga. And that's exactly what happened, so I guess I called it. So, yeah, there was some seduction. I guess the only thing that I thought might happen would be that they interrogate Fat Mabel. That didn't happen. The whole group is not, well, I guess the group as a whole is not great at information gathering. They're very much kind of kick in doors and shoot and ask questions later. Alfred might be a little bit different, but yeah. So, okay. So Fat Mabel, they assumed Fat Mabel was connected to the cult, I think. I'm pretty sure they did. At least I think I heard mention of that. They were wrong in that sense, I guess. She could have told them, I guess, some stuff about Makunga. Would it actually have done them much good in the end? Probably not. Because she didn't really know much. She didn't know they had a tunnel down there or anything. She just knew they did religious meetings once a week in the basement. So, yeah. She was scared of Makunga, I guess. So I guess it wouldn't have done them much good. That's her business will continue, I guess. There'll probably be a huge investigation once they find out. Actually, maybe her business won't continue, now that I think about it. Because, once they go in there, they find, the dead cops down there, the cult business, all that kind of shit, combined with the fact that she's running an illegal bar. Yeah. She'll probably be in prison for a long, long time. Who cares? So what else? Like I said, the really interesting part of Fat Mabel's, what I wanted them to get to was Makunga all the way down there. So I could have done more, I guess, with more just regular cultists messing their days up and stuff like that. But if I wanted them to die, I wanted them to die facing Makunga. For them to know real fear. I wanted to introduce magic, I guess, in their hearts. For them to be, I think even Olaf was like, oh, I forgot magic was in this. And I'm like, hell yeah, it fucking is. And so I did have the 5 cultists come down the stairs. Because it was a great cliffhanger moment when we broke for dinner. But I had them come down. I was questioning what they were going to do. Were they really going to cement themselves as just the shoot first, ask questions later? And they did not. They hesitated, and they let them pass. Makunga was down there. Wait a minute. Let me check my timeline. Hold on. When was he down there by himself? Right then, yeah. When they first went down there, before the 5 cultists came down, Makunga was down there by himself. And so if they had just massacred those cultists, jumped them, just boom, 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 which, guns can do. I know they haven't had great luck with guns. They've shot things that didn't really, get damaged by guns, but you get to jump on a few cultists, boom, boom, they're going down. Then, if the 3 of them went down there to fight Makunga, they may have had a chance. But they let the cultists go by. And they equalized that later by bringing in the cops, so those forces equalized, but they didn't have Mafume there, so... Also, Ziggy really messed up by going in close. You know, that's just... Like you go... It was basically like going in on going up to a wounded rhino, thinking everything's going to be okay. Now, it'll still gore the shit out of you. That's basically what happened. So yeah, that was a dumb tactical move. I wouldn't have recommended. Because the whole reason he went up to him was so he could hit him. But I would rather be on the defensive. You know, he doesn't have a gun. He has to come to you, so you take the range and you run with it, you know. But it doesn't matter, it's done with now. Moses is gone. So yeah, Makunga. He was a tough customer. I ran him pretty much as close to, you know, the campaign as I could. The first time they fought him, he didn't have his scepter, which gives him an extra 10 magic points. It wouldn't really made much of a difference. I mean, he still handled shit just fine. And he had the scepter for the second fight, but that critical fumble and just, you know, when you're, yeah. He ran out of magic, because he didn't have time to recover all his magic points from the first fight, so yeah, he was tough. So that was my first experience using, really, magic. The Haunting, you know, Walter Corbett had spells, but they never fought him, so I'd never really gotten to use magic, and this was my first real treat. There's going to be plenty later on, believe me, but this was the first time. And so the companion guide that I have basically recommends 3 spells as your main go-to for combat. One is Mind Blast, which I did use. I did good off on Charlie, and so that worked just like it should, and it's really a pretty decent spell. You immediately lose 5 sanity points, and you go temporarily insane. Just boom. No rolls, no nothing. I mean, there's a roll to see if you hit them, but other than that, they can't resist, really, the insanity, the temporary insanity. So, pretty much, anytime I use that, you're probably just going to be falling to the ground and kind of quivering for a while. It says for at least 1 hour. I was incredibly generous. Mine was like 5-6 seconds before I let him run away. He should have died. No questions asked. So yeah, that's me being very nice, and I will slowly start to break my habit of that. I have to be... This isn't D&D, Mang. This isn't D&D. Kill him off! So yeah, it's a very nice spell. The only issue is it does cost 10 magic points, which is a big amount. If you recall, your magic points for any character is their power score. So, you know, for investigators, that's a 3d6 roll. And so you could have magic points of, you know, 3 to 18. And so this one spell costs 10. But magic isn't really for investigators. Magic is mostly for me. And so Makunga had like 17, plus if he has the scepters, he's got an extra 10. So he's got a decent amount. There are characters later on that have 400, something like that. And so they can just, boom, Mind Blast all day, and once everybody's just quivering on the floor, well then it's just you go over and TPK. Obviously I don't really want to do that, but that's what I have at my disposal. So Mind Blast, very potent spell. Pretty much anybody they come against that has magic is going to have Mind Blast, whether it says so in the campaign or not. Because I feel like that's like the soul arrow of Call of Cthulhu, in my opinion. So that's a major one. Another one is that they recommend. Let me see if I can find what it's called. Power Drain. It drains magic points. So all of these spells, pretty much all these spells have sanity costs. The sanity costs are for investigators using spells. So it's to prohibit them from just going, oh, pew, 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 pew. everybody they meet that uses magic is already freaking insane, so it doesn't matter. So that doesn't matter to me. So power drain drains magic points from the target. So 1d6 magic points. And so in a fight against an investigator, they're not going to use that. That's not worth their time. There's better things to cast. But they can use that on their underlings. And so what I should have done, again, I was in the heat of the moment, I've never used magic before, but in hindsight, what I should have done is Makunga should have drained pretty much most of the magic points from the 2 cultists he had with him. While they're beating on the drums, he's just like, yes, yes, and just feeds them power points. Because you can have power points or magic points over your maximum. It's just once you use them, you only regenerate up to your normal maximum. So he could, if he went around, he could just suck out magic points from Harlem, and he could have 500 if I was really being a dick. But so yeah, power drain is mostly for a magic user that knows something is coming, which knowing this group is going to be most of the time. Okay, and the third spell that they recommend that every magic user has is a bind spell, or a contact spell. And the bind spells let you basically summon creatures. Okay, and so I'm trying to find the section where it talks about all the shit that you can bind. Oh, I think it's basically... Is it the contact section? Yeah, I know. What a great time to read this, right? I'm pretty sure I already knew all this, but... What the hell? Oh yeah, the summon slash bind, not contact. Contact is basically you just talk to them. Summon slash bind is where you summon them. And so this is all the different creatures that you could summon. A baka, which is like an evil spirit that grants dark wishes. Brother of Shogner Fawn, which is bad. Bayaki, child of Atlak Naka, which is a big spider. A child of Yig, which is a big snake. Dark Young, which will fuck your day up. God help them if I ever send them a Dark Young. Dimensional Shambler, decently, dangerous. Fire Vampire, probably one of the least dangerous, to be honest. Hunting Horror. Hunting Horror is basically like a giant serpentine flying snake thing that's completely black. And Makunga knew how to summon one of these. Like, that's one of his spells in the campaign. And so I was looking at how big they are and how big the room was that he was in. I was like, can I summon one of these? I was really tempted, but they're much bigger than that room. So he would have to go outside, and that was, like, I kept on telling them, I was like, if I wanted, I could kill you at any time. And that's basically if I just had Makunga go up on a rooftop and summon a hunting horror and tell him to go hunt these guys down. They would be, oh god, they would be owned. So much power at my fingertips. A Night Gaunt, a Servitor of the Outer Gods. They'll be coming across those. Star Vampire, those will mess you up. Effigy of Hate. I think that's about it. Oh, Thrall of Shogner Fawn. Yeah, I think that's about it. Okay. So yeah, there's a bunch of creatures you can summon, and this is just the ones that list. I could probably summon any creature, here in the book if I really wanted to. So yeah, those are the 3 main spells that they recommend that everybody has. Those are the ones they're most likely to use on a basis. But the other one that I tried to use against, I think, Moses was Dread Curse of Azathoth, which drains power. Like, it drains 1d3 power. which is really dangerous, because that means your sanity can automatically decrease, you know. If it, yeah, like it can ruin your day. He also had shriveling, which is what I should have used, because that, like, instantly just... Let me see how much damage it actually does. So you invest a certain number of magic points into the spell. And if it hits, it does 1 damage for each magic point invested. So, again, you go back to some of these people that have, you know, 100 magic points or something like that. Yeah, they can easily kick your ass. Makunga wasn't the greatest spellcaster, so he doesn't have, you know, all the really cool shit. The really cool shit being stuff like Fist of Yog-Sothoth. Yes. Okay, I don't want to delve into that too far. So yeah, they handled Makunga, which was very good. It was very epic, climactic. I was happy with how it ended. I wanted them to kill Makunga because I wanted them to get the goodies. So that was good. And they did not go behind the curtain. They were very smart because it wouldn't have really hurt them. They could have easily run away from it if they saw it. But if they did see it, I guess they knew big sanity losses. So they're starting to think like Call of Cthulhu players. Except kind of not. Because they found the mask. Charlie found the mask, and he immediately put it on. And I was like, you saw my reaction. I was so fucking happy. I was like, oh my god. And so, as I was describing, okay, it's just a 1d4 roll that I do, and it's just, well, I'll talk about the mask in a little bit. But he did the vision, and as I was reading the vision, I was like, I'm doing the full sanity loss. Like, that's where I hit my sadistic mark. I was like, fuck it, man. 1d100, I don't give a shit. And so he rolled his sanity. He rolled like a 7 or something. I was like, ah, damn it. And then I rolled the 1d10, and it was a 4. And I was like, oh, he just saw Azathoth, and he lost 4 sanity. That's such bullshit. I should just... Because I should just fudge it. But I know people on the stream are watching... And I know my players are watching the stream, so it's not even really a private roll anymore. It sucks. Otherwise, I probably would have fudged it. You lose 30 sanity. You're insane now. Yeah, so they have the mask. So that's good. We'll see how much they really use it. It was good. It was actually good that Simon put the mask on him again, and he got the Nodin's vision. Because the Nodin's vision showed him that there could be something good, potentially, with the mask. He didn't lose any sanity, and he got to ask a very powerful entity whatever question he wanted. It was kind of a vague answer, but the power is there. And so that was good to show him that maybe this isn't all terrible, this isn't just an abomination. We'll see what they end up doing with it, but yeah. Yeah, that's... Oh, yeah, Ed saying he would have asked for immortality. Yeah, Nodin's would have given him immortality, but it wouldn't have been the immortality that he wanted. Like, he would have made him, like, a star or something, like an undying star. And that's just it. That would be the end of his character. Like, yeah, you're immortal. Not how you really wanted. So, hey, it's Call of Cthulhu. I get to fuck with him like that. So we'll see if Ed ever metagames. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to put on the mask at some... I guarantee he's going to put on the mask at some point. And he may get Nodins, he may not. But if he does, that's probably what he's going to ask, and that's probably what's going to happen. Because now I'm getting sadistic. Alright, so I think that's all the stuff I wanted to say about really off the board. So I think we'll head over to the board now to get a bit into more detail about what is to come. Because that is going to be exciting. Alright, let's check it out. Alright, so first thing you're going to notice is New York to London. Yes, I am almost certain they will be heading to London in the next session. Mostly... Well, partly because they kind of wrapped up their duties a little bit. They had a resolution at the very least, and partly because of Ziggy's new character, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So, I'm pretty sure they're going to get to London. We'll talk about London in a second. First of all, the Cult of the Bloody Tongue. What's left? Well, Makunga is dead, but that doesn't exactly affect their bottom line. They will take time to reorganize, get everything, count their losses, things like that, elect a new local leader, stuff like that. But they're not in horrible shape, They did lose a couple artifacts that they cared about, but nothing terrible. The main thing is, the Cult of the Bloody Tongue is kind of small time. They're not a huge deal, especially in New York. The New York chapter was just kind of there. Mostly to do stuff like deal with Jackson Elias. Roger Carlyle was from there. His sister is there. Watch, over them. Do stuff like that. They weren't a huge deal. And so they're only really going to affect the campaign from here on, at least the New York chapter, if they return to New York. So they'll encounter the Cult of the Bloody Tongue again, but probably not in New York, So they definitely weakened the parts of. There won't be really any random occult killings or kidnappings for a while. So they did good. That's why they got sanity back. Alright, so the Mask of Hyamba. This is an incredibly powerful artifact. As you kind of could tell, investigators don't really like it because they lose sanity. But for people that are already insane and want to, speak to these powerful, it's like if you could speak to God, basically. That's what this artifact is. So if any cultist, finds out, any cultist throughout the whole game, if they find out that the investigators have it, they will throw every fucking thing they got at them just to get it back. And so, if the players realize that, they're going to chuck it in the fucking ocean. So, I can't really let it on that quickly that it's that important to them. But, yes, it is very powerful. So how it works is a 1d4 chance between 4 deities that you'll have a vision of. And really the only one that you can really talk to as part of the vision is Nodens. So that's the one they're always going to want. And so the 4 are Azathoth, which Charlie saw. Yog-Sothoth, of course, who is, the key in the gate. Very powerful entity. Nodens, who Charlie again spoke to, asked a question. And the other one listed is Shub-Niggurath. I hate Shub-Niggurath. I don't know why she is in as much shit as she is. The idea is that she's the mother of all the universes or something, whereas Azathoth is the father. I don't buy that shit. That's just something people came up with. Azathoth created fucking everything, alright? Shub-Niggurath just kind of floats around doing nothing. Yeah, she's a goat of 1,000 young or whatever. Bullshit. So I'm throwing probably Shub-Niggurath out of the loop. And I'm putting in Hastur because I love the guy. So the companion lists 4 different visions corresponding to each one. So I'd have to write a new one for Hastur, but probably not a huge problem for me. It's worth it because it's Hastur. So. And it boosts the Cthulhu mythos for the first time anybody wears it. I don't know if it's the first time you wear it or if it's the first time you talk to each one. If so, then Charlie's mythos should be higher. I'm going to double check that later, but it definitely does it for the first time, no matter what. And it's a 1d10 boost the first time you wear it. In addition, we haven't really encountered this much, it hasn't really mattered. But if you go temporarily insane from any Cthulhu mythos effect, from seeing something that's part of the mythos or reading something that's part of the mythos, anything like that, you immediately gain 5 Cthulhu mythos points. And so, wearing the mask can be a big boost to your Cthulhu mythos, which nobody really wants, but that's how it is. The other thing it helps with contact spells, which they may know at some point. I can actually think of a book that they could get their hands on next session that would give them a contact spell. But basically, if you use the contact spell and you put on the mask, it gives a 25% chance extra of actually successfully contacting the deity. I don't know how they would ever realize this or put this together. It'd be, yeah, I'd have to hint it, but I don't know who I would use to hint it at them, and so it's probably not likely to happen. Maybe they could piece it together if they get the spell Contact Nodens, and they think, this thing lets me contact Nodens, what if I use them at the same time? I don't know. This is all just, I'm just doing what the campaign says. Alright, so the question is, what will they do with it? They already don't seem incredibly fond of it. We are bringing in 3 new people, which may have a fondness for it. Maybe if one of them is, studies African lore or something, an occultist, something like that, they may have an interest with it. I'm sure we'll get to see one more vision at the very least. I think Ed is the most interested in it, but we'll see what they do with it. I'm hoping they don't throw it away, like throw it in the ocean. They may hand it off to somebody like Jonah, which he's going to fucking put it on. I have to do that. He's going to put it on, probably right in front of them. Just so they're like, no! And then he's just, of course, that's what I would have to do. Like, this is what you fucking get. Yeah, so, I don't know, we'll see what they do with it. I hope they don't throw it away, because it's a lot of fun for me. Alright, so moving on. Erica Carlisle. Alfred spoke with her last session. Didn't get a tremendous amount of info about it. He did find out that there are some rare books being held in her safe, in her library. Some men broke into the library trying to get them. I'm not sure if he really picked up on that. He may have. Some campaigns, some investigators, some groups will definitely try to break in to get at them. Alfred, I didn't expect Alfred to do that. He was a bit more honorable, asking if he could have them, but he did not offer to purchase them, which was distinct. And I think that was where he made a slight mistake. He definitely should have offered to purchase them, because these are somewhat rare books. Well, to the general public, these are somewhat rare. To the right people, these are invaluable. So, Erica is now planning on selling these books, because I want the investigators to have these books so they go kind of crazy, because I'm like that. So she's planning on selling them, and she's going to make some phone calls, or she's going to have one of her people make some phone calls around to some book dealers, people that kind of know into these stuff, get some quotes, get some interest going, see who wants these. And our good buddy Jonah Kensington is going to hear about this, because he's a publisher of occult books. He's going to find out about this. He's got a lot of buddies that are in bookstores around the city. And so he's going to hear that, these books, they were apparently owned by Roger Carlyle. There could be some value there. So he's going to call up Alfred, or, however it works, and he's going to say, hey, maybe you should, make an offer to her. Or, I can make an offer for you, but you have to put up the money. And so money isn't really the issue here, I guess. We don't really deal with money. I don't make it a big deal. Really only if it's game breaking and they're trying to do something with their wealth. Will I say, I don't know if you can do that. But for something like this, they'll probably be able to afford it if they all agree, especially, somebody like Ziggy's new character who's very wealthy. If he's like, yeah, I'll put some money in, then yeah, they'll be able to make an offer that she'll accept. The question is, do they want them? I think Alfred does. I think Alfred definitely does. He wanted to take them, so I'm pretty sure he wants it. Do members of the group, such as Charlie Chalk, do they want them? I feel like if Ziggy alone, if his character makes an offer, and he succeeds on maybe a little bit difficult of a credit rating check, he could probably do it on his own. And his character has some interest in the occult. He is not even an acquaintance. Whatever's less of an acquaintance with Erica Carlisle, that's what he is. He knows her. He's spoken to her. So he may go for that. So the books that she is selling are the Narcotic manuscripts, which is pretty good. People of the Monolith, which is, I think it's like bound in the skin of a Chthonian or some shit. Selections des livres divins, which is a French commentary on the original Liber Ivonis by I don't remember who wrote that. The French commentary is by Gaspard du Nord. And that is a very important book. And I think that one might teach... No, I think it's People of the Monolith that teaches a spell, or a couple spells. I think People of the Monolith teaches Contact Nodens and Iban's Wheel of Mist or something like that. And then Life is a God, which is probably the most important one of the bunch. Because Life is a God concerns itself almost directly with an Egyptian cult. Which, if they hear about that, maybe Jonah will tell them like a listing of, I've heard of this Life as a God one. I think it concerns an Egyptian cult. I think they'll spring for that one. So, all 4 of them are important. All 4 of them will increase their Cthulhu mythos and drive them insane and stuff like that. So, I'm hoping they spring for it. That's why I'm kind of doing this. I'm giving them opportunities, but I'm also a sadistic shit, and I'm going to just drive them insane and kill them later anyway. So, that's how I run shit. Alright, so, So Alfred has to make contact with Kensington in the next session because he's not at the Roosevelt. So Kensington's probably been calling for him. But he's going to have to call him. Kensington will introduce the new characters. So that's 3 new characters. One I only know of for, all the details is Ziggy's new character, which is Reginald Steinway. He's like the grandson of the original Steinway guy on all the pianos and stuff. So he's a very wealthy, affluent guy. And he's kind of like an emissary? I don't know. He's like an official for the Steinway Company, and he consistently travels between New York and London. So this is a very time-appropriate character, I guess. And so he owns his own yacht, and so they travel back and forth. I don't know if yachts go transatlantic. I don't know. Whatever. And so Reginald, wealthy, connected, and he's going to be introduced to the campaign by basically out of game, like out of session. He's going to have a chance encounter with Erica Carlisle, and they just kind of do some chit-chat for whatever reason. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's not in the session. And she's going to mention that he's going to ask about the Carlisle expedition, because she's, that's what she was all about. And she's going to say, it's wrapped up, it's over with. Although, there was a man that came and inquired, and I think he was sent by a guy named Jonah Kensington. Aha! And so, that's pretty much going to be all she says. He's not going to have like a great connection with her or anything. He's still going to have to buy her books if that's what he wants. It's just this chance encounter. And so he's going to call up Jonah Kensington. Jonah Kensington is going to be like, "Hey, Alfred, if you're looking to get to London, I think this is the perfect time. There's this guy, Reginald Steinway. He's got his own ship, and he's planning on heading out on the 28th of January. So he's interested in kind of the Carlisle expedition. Maybe you could hook up with him." Boom. All right. So this does 2 things. One's this secures transport for them, which wasn't a huge deal, but it does. It secures transport. And 2, it puts a deadline. Because Ziggy he messaged me, he's like, the ship is leaving on the 28th of January. And I'm like, all right, that's done. You can't change it now. It's the 28th of January. Okay, so he'll introduce Reginald, the other 2 characters, however, blah, blah, blah. He'll tell Alfred about the books being sold. So Alfred will do whatever. He'll maybe say, maybe this Reginald fellow will have enough funds. Blah, blah, blah. And then Alfred has to get the guys out of jail, Mafume and Charlie. And so they're talking about bail being posted. This is an interesting concept. What bail does, as far as I understand, somebody could correct me, but bail is when you're in jail and if your bail is posted, if it's allowed to be posted, you're out of jail until the court hearing. If bail is not posted, you're in jail until the court hearing. So bail doesn't get you out of a crime. So it was late. Like, we were nearing the end of the session when it happened, so I didn't really gloss over the court hearing. I just said, 30 days. So I think we're going to kind of rewind that a little bit. I'm going to tell them we're going to rewind that a little bit. You haven't had your court hearing yet. Because, for them to arrest them and pass sentence in like half an hour is a little quick. So they're going to be in jail, awaiting to see what, and awaiting their court hearing or whatever. And so Alfred is going to come in, he's going to post their bail, and they're going to be let out until their court hearing. But they're going to be told, don't commit any more crimes, you're on probation or whatever, and you can't leave the city. Can't leave the city. And so they're probably going to break that rule, I imagine. Because if they don't, Reginald either has to leave, let his ship leave without him, or they have to just lose Reginald. Or we can actually do a time skip. I would allow it. I would allow Reginald to go to London and then come back, and we just like, about 25 days has passed. Or their jail sentence or whatever has passed. And so a month later, we're in February or whatever, probably March by that time. We've been going very, very much hour by hour by hour. But eventually they're going to realize, hey, maybe we should take a week off. Or maybe we should take a couple weeks off, a month off, whatever. This will create problems if they get into this mindset eventually. But for right now, it's okay. It's not terrible. So, yes. But they're likely to break the rule anyways. And they're probably going to be leaving for London quickly to meet, Reginald's deadline and all that shit. So they have a few days left in New York. The main question that they need to ask themselves, realize, before they leave for London, is do they have passports and visas? Yes, I'm being that much of a dick. Now, a couple of the members will have passports. Alfred will definitely have a passport, no problem. And he doesn't have to worry about a visa. He's a British citizen. He's a lord of, the Parliament or some shit. And Reginald will not have to worry about that because he travels constantly. He's got all the shit he needs. Members like Charlie Chalk, though, yeah, that's not so great. Because he's not going to be able to get a passport or a visa because that would imply that he's about to leave the city. And so, even if they do realize it, if they want to skip town, they're still kind of fucked. Because then when they arrive in Britain, they're going to be arriving in Southampton, do they try to evade customs? Putting, Reginald on the line, this guy that they just met, and would he want to do that? Because one of these members that is escaping, his punishment is a Negro, which already Ziggy told me, he's like, Reginald is not the greatest fan, not like the other two guys. So he basically sees black people as servants because he has an assistant that is a black guy. And so is he really going to want to put his reputation on the line, risk everything for a black guy? And if they don't try to evade customs, they don't have a passport and they don't have a visa. And so they're going to be like, where did you come from? And they may make a phone call back to, New York or something, asking about, do you have anybody, matching these names and descriptions or, who knows what. It's bad news. But, hey, that's how punishments go, man. I just got to do this as realistically as I can. So yeah, that's going to be real interesting. They put themselves in this predicament because if Charlie didn't shoot the guy, they weren't in prison, and they were just like, well, let's go to London. And they didn't realize that they needed passports and visas. it wouldn't be as bad. It would still be kind of shitty, but there would be kind of a process, I guess. So that's that's an interesting thing, the passports, visas, because they're going to be traveling around the world. And so this is one of those things where it's just like, it's up to the players to just kind of realize this, And so I like that. I like that in a campaign where it requires intelligence from the players, And maybe that's just me. I think at the start of the other session, last session, they were like, what library, or I want to go to the library. And I'm like, what library do you want to go to? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, knowledge is power. Because different libraries do different things. If you just say the closest library, that's not as good. This is a real world thing. There are a number of libraries in New York in 1925, you tell me. And Alex Johnson, Charlie Chalk, was like, I have enough homework to do in real life. If I wanted to do homework, I wouldn't play a game or, whatever like that. I guess we just differ. I like this kind of shit, but I've been out of school for a while, so whatever. Alright, so London. Let's finally get to the main subject here. How long has this been running? Oh, about 43 minutes. That's fine. We got plenty to talk about. Alright, so London, yes. I've never visited, although I would love to. So I'm going to be kind of depending mostly on the campaign and the campaign companion, but I'm sure that Alfred and Ed will, or, Ren and Ed will tell me things about British culture and whatnot. So yeah, they're going to go through customs at Southampton, and there's very little chance of them not being screwed over completely there. And almost no matter what, all of their guns are going to be confiscated. The only one that might not be is Alfred's elephant gun. Because he is a lord of the British Parliament, and he's been through here many times, he probably has some licensing or something like that for the gun. So I think Alfred might be the only one. All the rest of them, guns are taken, bitch. So that's going to relieve them pretty defenseless, because as far as I understand it, it's a lot harder to get guns in Britain than it is in America. So they do that on purpose. Well, it's beautiful how it works out. Then you're in a new place, you got no guns, good fucking luck. I like it a lot. Alright, so the main cult in London is the Brotherhood of the Black Pharaoh. Majorly Egyptian. Most of London's stuff is to point to Egypt as the next location. So the whole cult is very Egyptian in theme. And the Black Pharaoh is just another mask of Nyarlathotep, much as the Bloody Tongue is, god of the Bloody Tongue. And so the Brotherhood is run by basically two people, although one is much more prominent than the other. The main guy is Edward Gavigan. And right now he also runs a place called the Penhew Foundation. And Penhew, Aubrey Penhew, yes, I remembered his first name, was one of the members of the Carlisle expedition. Now, I'm curious as to how attentive they're going to be about this. Again, I think Ren is like the only guy that really knows much about the Carlisle expedition, but even he has not done much research. So they really got to hit the libraries at some point. But yes, Aubrey Penhew was a member of the Carlisle expedition. And he set up this entire Penhew Foundation, which is part clearinghouse and part private, not even private, there is a public section, I guess, Egyptian collection. And so the Penhew Foundation is a collector of Egyptian artifacts and, lore and books and all sorts of stuff like that. This should be a big clue. And so, when Aubrey Penhew left to go on the expedition, which included a trip to Egypt, he put a man in charge named Edward Gavigan. Now, Aubrey Penhew was, as far as I understand it, a pretty stand-up guy. He was a good guy. He just loved everything about Egypt. All its mystery and intrigue, all its culture and everything. He loved it. That's why he founded the Penhew Foundation. Edward Gavigan, on the other hand, is a fuck. The only thing he cares about is bringing about Nyarlathotep. He doesn't really give a shit about Egypt. And so, again, the fact that they know the name Nyarlathotep should be a clue that Egypt is involved. Like, again, it's hard for me because I know all the pieces of the puzzle, but Hotep is an Egyptian suffix. I think it means... Does it mean like peace or something? I don't remember what it means, but it's Egyptian. Penhew Foundation, you know, is the largest private/public Egyptian collection in the world. I guess maybe it's not a huge leap, but it's definitely like, okay, here's something, you know, maybe we could look into this. Maybe we could ask this guy. Oh, God. They walk up to him and ask him if he knows Nyarlathotep. I can picture that happening. Okay. So Gavigan is very powerful, very wealthy, very intelligent, very dangerous. He will fuck all their days up all day, every day. Easily. They need to be much more careful of how much they let him know compared to Makunga. Because Makunga knew everything about him, but he wasn't that dangerous. Gavigan, one of the most powerful guys in the campaign. Both personally and what he controls. So yeah, that's a tough cookie. His second in command, also the co-leader, I don't know how it all works, is a guy named Tufik Selyed, who is Egyptian, I believe. And so there's a huge feud between the two of them, because when Penhew left, he put Gavigan in charge because Gavigan was much more business-minded. He was much more professional of a guy. But he told Tufik in private, like, you should really be in charge because you are Egyptian. You know, this is your heritage and everything. But he basically said, you're the true leader of this thing. But we have to have Gavigan as like the puppet figure, I guess. It's something like that. It didn't sound as sinister as I'm making it. Again, Penhew was kind of a guy on the level. But there's a big feud between the two because Gavigan believes that Tufik is kind of more interested in the Egypt stuff than the Nyarlathotep stuff. And Tufik doesn't like Gavigan because he believes that, you know, he should be in charge. And so they will use the investigators to further either of their own purposes. So depending on which one they make buddies with, they will tell the investigators that the other guy is bad, is the head of the cult or something like that. They'll try to get either the investigators killed or to kill the other guy, or both, you know, at the same time. So it's like that. It's like the Cult of the Bloody Tongue times 5 with 2 of them going. It's crazy. All right, and so their main, they don't know much about the Penhew Foundation. They probably won't go there right away. I'm not planning on it because they don't have that information. They might find out about it. They might go there, and Gavigan will basically be very courteous. He'll express his sorrow for the death of Jackson Elias, all sorts of stuff like that. He'll deny the existence of any kind of modern-day Egyptian cult like this, death cult or anything like that. He'll be very nice to the investigators because he's not been tipped off by Makunga. If he was tipped off, they would have been screwed right at Southampton. Just dead. But he does not know who they are, but they are, depending on what they say to him, that is a very important conversation if they first talk to him. And so he'll try to get on their good side to know more about him. Let them say more than they should. But he's definitely a very powerful enemy. Okay. Main person that they're going to talk to, because they're going to be directed to him by Kensington, is a guy named Mickey Mahoney, who is the editor of The Scoop, which is a major tabloid rag in London. And Mickey knew Elias, like, Kensington he'll say that, you know, the two of them knew each other, so maybe he talked to Mickey when he was in London. He definitely did. He definitely talked to Elias, and Elias seemed kind of not entirely with it, but he did promise Mickey a big story about a well-connected cult working here in London, which is a big story. Mickey never got the story. Jackson left because he was being hounded by Edward Gavigan. And so he didn't get the story, and so he'll pay for any stories that the investigators got. Now again, we don't make a big deal out of money. I think if we did make a big deal, it'd be much more of an incentive. I don't know if they'll really go for it here because they have, a financier like Reginald. But, if they tell him the story about Makunga or something like that, he'll publish that shit. And that could be dangerous. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. But the main thing that Mickey Mahoney's got going is when Elias was there, he looked at 3 stories that the Scoop had published. Like, Mickey will be like, yeah, he was here, and he looked through a few stories that interested him. I don't know if he followed up on them, but I think I still have them marked. And they'll be like, oh, yeah. And so he'll go get the 3 stories. And these are not the names of the stories as they're published. These are just the ones for how they're called in the campaign. And so one is the Derbyshire Monster, which would involve them going outside of London, and it basically involves a werewolf. There was a werewolf, like, killing people in this small village. And so it's a very classic story. The only slight twist is when they get there and they hear some stuff, they're going to immediately suspect it's the son of the wealthy noble living there, but it's actually the daughter. So that's the major twist there. And the other complication is it's a werewolf. They're vulnerable to silver, but they don't know. Like the lore that silver hurts these creatures does not exist in 1925. It's not till like 1933 or something, from like a retelling of the Beast of Gebudon or something. I looked this shit up, man. I gotta make sure. So that'll be real tricky, and killing a werewolf without realizing that silver hurts them. They'll probably just set the fucker on fire, but. Another one is the Serpent in Soho. This is dangerous. This is incredibly dangerous. Like, in general, London, I think, kills more investigators in this campaign than any other place. So, yeah. Serpent in Soho involves a guy that makes these paintings that are very strange. Very strange. And so they'll go to the place, they'll be greeted by this kind old woman, and she'll just say, oh, are you here to buy some of my son's paintings? And they'll go look at these paintings. And it's mean. Like, there's like 35 of these paintings on the wall. And each one that they look at, if they fail their sanity checks, they lose 1d3 sanity. But you don't tell them until they're done looking. So they'll look through, and you'll describe all the paintings, and okay. And they'll go through maybe all of them. And then once they're done, you're just like, oh yeah, as you turn away from the paintings, you realize what you just saw. Roll 35 sanity checks. And you could do that much simpler, but I just love the idea of telling them to roll 35 sanity checks. And so you could lose quite a bit from that potentially. Because you would, every time that you lost sanity, your new sanity check would be harder to make, and so it's beautiful. But yeah, so there's a couple things involved in that. One of the paintings does depict a key clue for the entire campaign, like a major clue. So it is worth it for them to check it out. Well, I guess it's not key, but it is very helpful. In like a closet in the house, there's a secret painting that they don't like showing to anyone. And so they may mention this painting if it sounds like the investigators are like onto them or dangerous or something like that. And they'll show them the painting. And God, this is so cruel, but I love it. The painting, if you stare at it, you get like mesmerized because it seems like the colors are kind of swirling around. And so if you keep looking at it, you get sucked into the painting. There's no way to stop it. You get sucked into it. And what the painting actually is a gate to like the year 65,000 BC. There's no way out. You're dead. And so, yeah. They use the painting to send sacrifices to serpent people. Because the painting guy is completely insane, and his mother, the old lady, was eaten by a serpent person. And the serpent person now takes the form of his mother. Yeah, it's fucked up. And so, if they harm the old lady at all, just like, if they like slap her, she'll lose the form and she'll turn into a big like 8-foot tall serpent person and wreck shit. And yeah, it's like it's just a trap. It's a trap, man. Really, overall, it's not worth it at all to go there. There's like a section in the companion about how if they really are clever or something, like maybe they could get this serpent person to kind of not really work for them, but they could get some information out of him maybe. You know, if they don't kill him and there's maybe some kind of mutual thing. I don't think our group would ever manage that, but there you go. And then the final one is Slaughter in Soho, which is the main one that they kind of need to follow up on. Well, not need. There's nothing you really need to do, but the one they probably want to follow up on. And this involves a bunch of murders or missing people of some Egyptians. That most of them hung out at this club, the Blue Pyramid, which is a primarily Egyptian club, and there's been a lot of murders and missing people and stuff like that. And so that should sound very familiar to them. So I think that one they'll probably follow up on, but I imagine they'll follow up on the other ones as well, just to make sure. And so the Slaughter in Soho will eventually lead them out of London to Essex. Again, I'm probably going to mispronounce a lot of these things. I'm not British, I'm sorry. I think it's Essex, I don't know. And out in Essex is Gavigan's private estate, called the Miser House. And there, they'll be led to basically, assuming they can get in and be sneaky, Gavigan's estate holds enough shit that could last them a while. There's a lot of cool stuff in there, and dangerous and maddening, blah, blah, blah. Outside of the estate, on the hill, there is a ritual being held. Now, they missed out on the ritual in New York at the Juju House. This one is 10 times that ritual. Like, I don't even want to go into detail because it's not even for like polite conversation. Like, they summon servitors of outer gods to rape and slaughter slaves and like violent sex orgies with, demons, and it's fucked up, man. If they see this shit, they're pretty much going insane because everybody there is already insane. Like, I think like they summon in like 1d6 servitors of the outer gods. Each one you see costs you 1d20 sanity if you fail your check. So, yeah, the ritual, they won't get to that next session. London will take them a while, alright? Because each one of these could last a couple sessions. So, I won't go into too much detail about what's all involved there, or at the estate, or all that kind of stuff. I just wanted to give you a brief primer on London, and how very, very dangerous it is. I am planning that none of the people that are going to London are going to survive London. But I'm waiting to be surprised. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all there is to say. I've talked enough. Again, we've basically just scraped the iceberg, tip of the iceberg for this campaign. Because that's just a basic rundown of London. There's also Cairo, Kenya, Shanghai, Australia. Yeah, they fucking go to Australia. So yeah, we're going to be here a while, and it's going to be a blasty blast, so... It's unfortunate we don't play more often. I'd play this shit every day if it were me, but I guess that we'd have a lot of role mangings then. Yeah. So, good stuff. Very good stuff. I am excited. London is going to be a lot of fun. I'd like to visit London, but not under these circumstances, that's for sure. I'm very excited for the Serpent in Soho, because so much can go terribly wrong there that it's going to be beautiful. But, yeah, alright, I think that's going to wrap up this special secret video. It's so private. Alright. My name is Mang. This has been Secret of Role Manging for our Call of Cthulhu campaign. And I will see you in a couple weeks.